Hey guys, this time we're looking at solving systems of equations. You should remember a bunch of this from Algebra 2, even a little bit of Algebra 1. You can solve a system by elimination, substitution, or graphing. So we'll start with elimination. For elimination, you want to cancel out one of the variables, so we need to multiply one or both equations by a constant, by a number, so that either x's or y's will cancel. So between 6 and 7y or 8x and 10x, you just got to pick whichever one you want to do and get the common multiple. So for this one, you can get a common multiple of 40 for the x's. So that means our top equation would have to be multiplied by 5. Our bottom equation would be multiplied by 4. And you multiply that throughout the entire equation. So that's 40x minus 30y equals 16 times 5 is 80, negative 80. And then same thing for the bottom. That would be 40x. We actually want that to be a negative 40x, so let's multiply by negative 4. Then negative times negative would be positive 28. Negative times negative. 4 times 18, 72. And it's negative times negative, so it's positive 30. Yeah, 72 is correct. So now those will cancel out. Our x's will cancel right there. We get negative 2y equals negative 8. Divide, you get y equals 4. So then we can take this answer of y equals 4, plug it into either one of the original equations, and we'll solve for x. So that gives us 8x minus 6 times 4 is 24. Add the 24 over. That's 8, so x equals 1. So our final answer, we're going to write it as an ordered pair, 1, 4. And there is a pretty easy way, especially on Casios, that you can work these out. You just go to the main menu. We're going to go to Equation Solver. So Equation, which is this option right here. And this is, for this one we have two equations, we do simultaneous F1. Number of unknowns, that's variables, x and y, that's 2. And you just fill in your coefficients straight across from the very beginning. So that's 8, and then negative 6, negative 16. It needs to be in this form, it needs to be standard form. Then we fill in 10, negative 7, and negative 18. And then F1 to solve. And there it is, 1, 4, 1, 4, just like what we got by hand. So that's actually 4 ways we can solve it: elimination, substitution, graphing, or with calculator. Alright, so this next one, this is not set up easy that we could type it into our calculator. We do have a couple options then. This is set for x equals, so that's actually a pretty easy substitution right there. Yes, there's a fraction, but it's not horrible. If you were to solve this out with substitution, you would have write everything the exact same until we get to these parentheses, and then we just replace it with 1 plus 4/3. And then just distribute, combine like terms, solve it out. We do have that fraction. If you don't want that fraction, you can clear out fractions by multiplying by 3 to everything, just to clear that out. Multiply by 3, 3, 3, everywhere. And then no more fraction, you won't have to worry about it. And then here, just the 3's cancel out. And then obviously 0 times 3 is 0. Finish solving it. So get all of our numbers. Oops, let's have a y with it. Combine your y's. 27 minus 16 is 11y. 78 minus 12 is 66. So subtract the 66 over, divide by 11, you get y equals -6. Then we could take that answer, plug it back into either of these original ones. The top one's going to be pretty easy, because we just replace y with -6. So that would be x equals 1. Negative times positive is negative. 6 times 4 is 24, divided by 3 is 8. 1 minus 8, that would be -7. So that's our final answer. X is -7, y is -6. Write it as an ordered pair, and you're all done. Alternatively, you could put this into standard form, and then use your calculator also. So to do that, that would look like getting x and y on the left. So that would be -4/3 y plus x. Oops, I want x first though. So it's going to be x minus 4/3 y equals 1 for our top equation. And then x first would be -4x. And then the y would be plus 9y equals, we got to move that 26 over, so minus 26, -26. And once you have it in standard form, you just have to type that in. So first coefficient of x is 1, and then -4/3. And 1. And then our second equation would be -4, 9, and -26. We should get the same answer, -7, -6. So either way, solving it by hand, you can also solve it with the calculator if you have your calculator available to you. Solving by substitution, we just actually did a substitution problem. Since it's y equals on both of these, we just set them equal to each other, because we would take y equals and plug it in for the other one. So it ends up looking like -3x minus 4 equals 6x plus 23. And then just solve it out. So get your x's together. Add the 4 over. Divide. Get x equals -3. And then plug it into either of these. Take your pick, it doesn't really matter. I'll go to the bottom one, less negatives to worry about. 6 times -3. That's -18 plus 23 is 5. So ordered pair, x first, then y. That's it. Again, if you're going to type this into your calculator, you have to get it in standard form first. So the 3x comes over. It'll be a positive 3x. And then the 1y equals negative 4. And then negative 6x when you move it over. Plus 1y equals positive 23. Negative 3 comma 5. Also, since these were y equals, you could have typed them into the graphing portion of your calculator and then just done a calc intersect, and that would work too. All right, same idea, substitution, replace y with what it equals. And since there's a coefficient, we do have to distribute. And then solve it out. Combine like terms, you get 16x. Let's subtract the 51 over. And then 64 divided by 16, that's 4. So it's negative 4. Then you take that negative 4, plug it back in. Six times 4 is 24, so that's negative 24 plus 17. It's negative 7. As your ordered pair, x goes first. And that's it. Or again, you could have put it in standard form, plugged it in to the calculator, got the same answer. All right, solve by graphing. We'll just review how to graph a line by hand. Remember, you start at the y-intercept. And then the slope is negative 1, so that's down 1 over 1 throughout the entire graph. The more points that you plot, the more precise your graph will be. That was a lot of P words there. Then for the second one, I'll use this different color, negative 3 first for our intercept. And then negative 7 is the slope, which means it goes down 7 over 1. Or if we went the other way, it would be up 7 and left 1. And since I just put it one dot on top of another, 1 point on top of the other, that will be our solution right there where the purple and the blue intersected. Without even drawing the actual lines, you could, of course, draw the straight lines, but that's our solution, negative 1 comma 4. The solution is just where the lines intersect. All right, let's do another one. Negative 4 is your intercept. And then the slope is 1, so up 1 over 1. And again, the more points you plot, the more precise your graph. Then we've got a y-intercept of 1 and a slope of 1. And now this should hopefully take you back to Algebra 1 and or geometry. They have the same slope. And as I'm plotting these out, you can see that these are not getting any closer. They're not going to intersect. They are parallel because they have the same slope right there, which means they will not intersect, which means there's no solution. All right, so the last part of this is we'll get into some mixture problems. So when I set these up, I always set them up with, sometimes they're called buckets or boxes or whatever you want to call it, but it's anytime you have a mixture, this is how we set it up. So needs to make, so that's what's going on its own. Always include the percentages up at the top. So in order to make this, they are combining something that's 5% with another that's 80%. Now one easy check is that these two, your answers can only fall between these two percentages because those are what we're mixing. If we did all of the 5% and none of the 80, we'd end up with 5. If we did all 80 and none of the 5, we'd end up with 80. Or we can do a mixture and get anywhere in between, but it cannot get less than 5 or more than 80, which we're not, so that's good. Also, our final answer is closer to the 80, which means that this will have more. We'll use more of this 80% mix. So that's just kind of a quick check, making sure your answer makes sense. And it's asking how much of each. That's why I did an X for the 5% and a Y for the 80. If those were mixed up, it wouldn't matter. We just need two variables there. And we're going to put it back in context when we're all done. So these are easy because our first equation we get by taking just what we wrote and multiplying it together. So 5% would be 0.05x. 80% would be 0.80 y equals 0.65 times 15. I don't want to pull up my calculator yet, so I'll just write it that way. And then the second equation, you just go straight across the bottom. X plus y equals 15. So this is already set into standard form. So we can go straight into our equation simultaneous solver. Two variables, just like we've been doing. And we'll type this out. So the first coefficient is 0.05, and then 0.80. And then this last part, we can actually multiply it right here. We don't need to multiply it first. 0.65 times 15. Just type in the simple calculation right there, and it will do it, 9.75. And our next coefficients are 1, 1, and 15 from the second equation. Solve it, and we get 3 and 12. So let's look last. This was measured in milligrams. So that means that for the X, that's 3 milligrams of the 5% mixture and 12 milligrams of the 80%. And again, those add up to 12, which makes sense. It's also a lot more of the 80 because our final percentage was closer to the 80%. All right, so now we're mixing alcohol with water to dilute the percentage of alcohol that's in it. Now, pure water would have 0% alcohol in it. So as we're mixing these two things together, we have 75%, 0%, and we're finding the final concentration. So that's what we're finding here is the concentration percentage. And it also tells us that we have 4 liters of this one, 2 liters of water, which means our total if you add 4 liters and 2 liters, is 6 liters. So we can just put that there. So this doesn't require a second, doesn't require 2 equations because our second equation here is 4 plus 2 equals 6. We just did that. So we only really get one equation here, 0.75 times 4 plus 0 times 2 equals 6c. So we don't even need the equation solver, we just have to do pretty much straight out 0.75 times 4. It's going to be 3, but I already started typing it. Plus 0 equals 6c. So 3 plus 0 is 3. Divide by 6, we get c equals 0.5 or 1/2, which, remember, this was percentage, so it's a 50% alcohol solution. Pretty similar problem here. We've got a couple things we're going to mix together. How many liters of 50%? Saline is salt water. Must be mixed with 2 liters of 80% to make a 60% solution. Now we don't know how much of either of these. We don't know what we start with or what we end with. So we can take this, make our equations, and solve it out. Now, looking at this, 60%, our final amount is closer to 50 than it is 80. So we will have more of the 50% solution than the 80%. So this answer is going to be larger than 2. That's all we really know at the moment. It probably won't be much larger, though, because 60 is almost halfway. 65 would be halfway, so it's pretty close. All right, so our equations are 0.5x plus 0.8 times 2 equals 0.6 times y. And then our second equation is just from the bottom row there, x plus 2 equals y. Now this is not standard form, so we cannot just jump it in, plug it into our calculator. You can either rewrite it, or this is actually really pretty simple to do substitution, so that's what I would choose. It's even easier than letting the calculator work, I think. We're just plugging in x plus 2 in place of the y. So we have to distribute. Combine like terms, get it all set up so we can solve. So subtract the 0.5. That's 0.1x. And now we will subtract the 1.2. That is 0.4. And divide, we get x equals 4. So, final, to answer our question, let's find the question again. How many liters of the 50%? There it is, 4 liters of the 50%. All right. Same idea, we're mixing together a couple of things. She made a mixture that's 84 by mixing two different things together. Now for this one, we don't know the percentages, so that will go on top. But we do know we had 4 pounds here and 6 pounds. I'm mixing 4 pounds of mixed nuts with 6 pounds of peanuts. The mixed nuts contained what percent peanuts? So if this was just peanuts, we actually do know that percentage was 100%. The mixed nuts contained what percent? That's what's going here. And we also know that if we added 4 pounds and 6 pounds, we ended up with 10 pounds. So, x percent times 4 would be 4x. 100% times 6 is 6, because that would be 1.0 for 100%. And 84% times 10 would be 0.84 times 10. So solving this out, 4x plus 6 equals 8.4. Subtract the 6, you get 2.4. And then 2.4 divided by x, or divided by 4. It's 0.6. So what percentage is it? That's 60%. And it was asking what percent peanuts were in the mixed nuts, so they were 60% peanut. Alright, last one is a very it's a special problem I made just for right now, because this is actually going on with all this COVID-19 coronavirus stuff. Some people are actually making their own hand sanitizer, mixing aloe and alcohol. So this is just confirming the math that if you quickly Googled how to make your own hand sanitizer, it tells you what to do. This just confirms it. So if you had 90% alcohol, and you're going to mix it with aloe vera gel, which is 0% alcohol, how much of each would you use to make 12 ounces of hand sanitizer? That needs to be 60% alcohol. So again, we are mixing two things to make our final result. We know our alcohol was 90%. The aloe is 0%. We're trying to make 12 ounces total. And it says how much of each. So this would be X and Y. So two equations, one by multiplying. So you get 0.9x plus 0 times y equals 0.6 times 12. And then the other equation comes from the bottom. This is set up easily for our calculator to do the work for us. So let's go to our solving. Also has a 0 in it, so it'll be easy to do by hand. But let's go to equation. Simultaneous, two variables. The coefficients are 0.9 and 0, and then 0.6 times 12. And then our second one is 1, 1, and 12. Solve, and it tells us we get 8 and 4. So 8 ounces of the 90%, 4 ounces of the aloe vera gel. And that's actually right in line with what you get if you Google this. It says do 2 parts of rubbing alcohol or 2 parts alcohol with 1 part aloe, because that's the ratio right there, is 2 to 1. That's it. That's what somebody did and shared that out. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you understand. Post your questions in the Teams page, or comment, like the video, whatever, and until next time.